Everyone gets wise in the wilderness.
That doesn't. So, and what I mean.
Did you make that up?
That was off the top of my head. But
Yeah.
basically, my point to saying that is, you either get wise in the wilderness or you die in the wilderness. Those are the only two options. So you either get wise or you get dead. But those are the only two options. And everyone experiences a wilderness in their lifetime. Now, that's the thing that you have to realize. There's not going to be a period of life, a season, that you don't experience that. Multiple for many. So everyone gets wise in the wilderness.
And that's the thing. That's the tagline that we can remind ourselves to keep us from suspending critical values. Because the lion, he's not gonna let you ride. And the ants and the storms, they don't take maybe tomorrow as an excuse. You have to deal with them when they come.
Yeah. Yep. That's I think an overlooked component of life for everyone is that we're really, as much as we are from an intellectual being perspective, we're at the mercy of nature around us, and we should operate to some sense like that, where nature kind of goes toward the wilderness from a perspective of, I just have to figure this out. We should, from a perceptional perspective, look at life in such an objective way that I just have to figure this out. So let me find where the mistakes are without judging myself, my child, without idolizing myself, my child, and let's just figure this out. And you see that happen in nature, right? I mean, you see that all the time in nature, but us perceptional beings, we struggle with that because we're aware of what's going on.
No, hold on. You just said a couple things. One is profusion, right? We figured out. And what was the other one? The other reason that we might want to suspend disbelief includes brainstorming. There was another one you just mentioned. I was going to write it down and punch around my equipment.
Well, I mean, the two things I guess I was referring to is pursuing air in some sense. Was that? I did say that.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Well, perfusion kind of covers that a little bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to write these things down to sort of capture the ones that go well together.
Yeah. Basically, it all boils down in that sense there to us being able to look in an objective manner at what's going on without idolizing any part of life around us. That includes children and ourselves. We have a lot of self-reflective idolization that goes on when we can't admit our own error. And we see this in the group all the time. When we cannot admit something's wrong because it was our politician who did it instead of the politician we dislike, that is a self-idolization. So in other words, if we're not being objective consistently in terms of our surroundings, nature, we are just inhibiting our ability to get the maximum out of life, because we should pursue the air, we should try to fix it and correct it together, and we should not idolize anything. And this is why politicians parade children up to try to visualize, create a rhetoric, a narrative, and get people idolizing certain things, certain children. And they know that parents will idolize their own kids. So if they can get familiar looking kids who act similar, they'll get a similar response. That's how they operate.
And you know what? Idols are nothing if not static. That's like an idol that changes is not an idol. An idol is something that it's a symbol that's been in our people for a million years.
And we haven't spoken directly to this, but we've definitely alluded to it in all of our talks. If you haven't picked up on it yet, you should be thinking on a structural level the majority of the time, if not all the time. In other words, yeah, it's Greta today. It might be Rita 20 years from now, but it's still a 9 to 12-year-old girl in pigtails trying to, perpetuate a political narrative that's not really communicating the fine details that the people should be hearing. And so it doesn't matter what the name is. It doesn't matter what the name is. That structure exists void of Greta. And that's what we should be looking at more than Greta and analyzing, who said what about Greta. that's really irrelevant to why is Greta the structure being used in that way.
And so I'll put this as why hawk idols?
Yeah.
All right, we're coming up on an hour. Let's summarize.
Hard to do.
Yeah, it is. I have one child. He is just now about to start seeing, and he already kind of sees past a lot of my crap because I've taught him to. Your kids are what, 4 and 5?
2 and 5.
2 and 5. Yeah, so I got a 12-year-old. I'm about to start seeing mine turn lines. Yours are still going to be looking up to you for quite a while. But, 12 was only starting to see through things. I must have been 20 before I was like finally, meeting my folks as people. So you got quite a ways to go. I still have quite a ways to go. Sure.
Yeah. It should be perpetual, in my opinion. Like the brain and perceptions, those are like, they're always growing. They're always changing. Nothing should ever really be settled in my view. That's just my own personal belief. But basically.
Okay. Well, that's easy for you to say. And that's the thing you were talking about, the contrast. As you get older, you sort of let your idols go. Like the whole static thing, it doesn't work for us anymore. The world's not static, right? That we can't really do that anymore. We can't just sort of stick our head into a particular program and have it work. And by the way, Saeed mentions dark night of the soul. What's that mean? I'm going to write that down too. That sounds like
some clarity on that. But I like it. Self-reflective idolization. Oh, I love that analogy or that abstraction for that. Yeah. So for dark night of the soul, self-reflective idolization, I do like that, and I would agree. I think with what Saeed is helping to illustrate, where when you're idolizing yourself in a self-reflective manner, suspending critical analysis on yourself, it's the darkest part of your soul, the darkest night of your soul. That's when.
That's what we call narcissism, right?
Yeah.
When you're
the deepest, that would be the deepest seated of narcissism. That would be the level of narcissism where if someone, at least this is my interpretation of it, of the darkest night of the soul or dark night of the soul. If you are so narcissistic that the challenge of your authority would cause you to possibly cause physical harm to another, that would probably be the dark night of the soul level narcissism. So, because there's different levels of that self-reflective idolization. And at the dark night, I'd say that would be, you'll hurt someone to protect your own perceptions.
That's a pretty deep level of concern.
Yeah.
Fight rather than listen.
Fight rather than be critical about anything relating to yourself. Not even listen. Like, forget listen. I won't even look in the direction of myself on this. Yeah. You see that a lot online. I would imagine a lot of the people who do it online don't do it as much in their regular life. But here's where
online gives you that insulation.
Well, here's where it bleeds, and this is why it's an issue. This is where your cannibal troll is such an important thing, in my opinion, because what happens is when people behave in such a certain way, they just kind of condition themselves over time. And while people might be behaving one way online and contrast that in person, over the next 50 years, what's that going to look like? And a lot of people today don't think about that. But in 50 years, that moves. In 50 years, the adults and the children will be behaving a lot more narcissistically in person if this doesn't get in the butt now, because of the fact that people are acting more narcissistically online. It's going to be, and that's
true. The more we insulate ourselves from those updates, the more slowly we update, the more we become what we do.
No. So, but we can wrap it. Well, what do you think? We're at 50 minutes. We've had some really good, we've had some really good discussion in the thread. Let me just say, we've had a lot of, some of the people on here, I know that we've had some probably heated discussions of disagreement, but I really appreciated the comment thread tonight. It's been fun having some of the people with feedback.
Appreciate it. And let's hope that maybe we can imagine Greta bringing back more of a critical attitude if she decides to stay in the world of
That
politics.
would, exactly. I would say that the most optimal thing for Greta to ever have come out of Greta would be that this Greta is the one that champions critical analysis moving forward. If that's this Greta, then this Greta becomes a different Greta. This Greta becomes her own entity, similar to the Gandhis of the world. I'm not saying that she'd be a Gandhi, but when you're able to step out of the character you're assigned and become your own role and really move society in a constructive way, you get recognized not as Greta, the structured person who's going to be in pigtails 30 years from now with the name Rita, but Greta, the person who champions society to a better critical analysis thinking. Will she do that? I won't hold my breath.
We can hope.
Yeah.
And if she does, we'll hope that they listen to her for her ideas, not for her.
Amen to that.
Attitude.
Yep. So,
all right, so I think we're all done, right?
Yep. Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, again. Yep. Tomorrow night.
All right, sounds good, man.
Yep.
Thanks,
See you.
everyone.
Thank you.